So why did Toyota stop production of the RAV4 EV? Here it is. There is the sign saying Toyota is fighting against California's clean air laws. And there's our RAV4 EV. And why do they say it doesn't exist, or why did they stop making it? The following interview with Dr. Lyle Dennis of gm-volt.com, it may be slightly unfair to him, but I'm trying to raise the points that he went there with 275 questions, and he was only able to get Bob Lutz to answer one. And secondly, that General Motors limits exposure. It doesn't really let anybody ask any questions that has a history with EVs or knows anything about EVs. Not any of the EV1 folks, for instance, or the Ranger EV or the Honda EV people. So it seems to limit the exposure. And secondly, that nobody seems to ask the follow-up questions that General Motors doesn't want to hear. Like some of the things that it says are just ludicrous. And so with that, let's listen to Dr. Dennis. The GM-Volt website. I guess you have press credentials. You got in today?
Yeah.
Who did you get to talk to?
Well, so far, I've spoken to Bob Lutz briefly. I got to speak to Denise Gray, the battery director, advanced battery director, as well as Tony Bahazowitz, the vehicle line director of the Chevy Volt. I brought with me about 275 questions that people on the website were asking.
So what exactly questions did you ask Mr. Lutz?
Well, I got the chance to ask him so far one question. There may be an opportunity for me to ask him a couple more.
What do you have to say to the idea that they're ignoring the history of the battery electric vehicle and they have no knowledge of the EV1 or battery costs or how to the metrics that are involved in electric car costing?
Well, we bring up the EV1 issue, definitely in discussions, and I think, I think that they made some major public relation errors. I think that they're trying to recover from that PR disaster, basically.
But it's only a PR disaster? They don't think it was an actual social disaster? When the Edsel was taken off the road and the Oldsmobile was killed, did those people send out, goons to take them all off the road and crush them?
Yeah, I mean, that is an interesting, historical event. And, they have answers for it. I mean, you've heard them as well as I have.
What's the answer?
They say that, they weren't able to, and again, I don't work for GM, and I'm in no position to have to defend them.
But just the answer,
but,
what's the answer?
As I understand it, and that's only from what I read, is they were saying that, they could not sustain maintenance of these vehicles, and they did not want to take liability risks of having people running around with them and have problems that they couldn't solve for them.
So maintenance and liability. Toyota sold 328 RAV4 EVs on the open market in 2002. So why would General Motors, and there's one of them down there, you can take a ride in it.
Yeah.
Why would General Motors think that there's additional liability problems or maintenance with the EV1 that don't exist with the RAV4 EV?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question, and I don't know, how these business decisions are made.
Why doesn't anybody follow up these answers? When General Motors gives an answer like it's liability or insurance, why doesn't any one of the journalists do a follow-up and say some of the other facts, like there really isn't any legal liability? There is no law. We checked into this.
Yeah.
We heard this.
Okay.
They said, well, there's 5 years or 10 years. There isn't any such parts requirement. But why doesn't any journalist follow up with a question like, Toyota sold their EVs.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you let cash buyers buy yours?
Yeah.
Ask Bob Lutz.
It's a good question. I can do that. I might be able to ask him that.
Why do you suppose Bob Lutz doesn't have anybody in the community that he talks to that knows anything about electric cars?
In the community? What do you mean?
The people that talk to him, like the bloggers and the press.
Well, I think, these events that I've attended from being invited by General Motors, it's a marketing thing as well. The more bloggers are talking about their products, the more products they might sell in the end.
But if they're trying to sell the products, wouldn't they want to start with the demographic of EV1 drivers that were fanatically loyal to EV1 to General Motors?
I would think so. Yeah.
Well, so here is something that's much more difficult. This is an all plug-in car that doesn't use gasoline at all. It doesn't have the help of a gasoline engine.
And yet they can't even make a bigger, better version of the hybrid that they do have in order to make it a hybrid gasoline.
A plug-in.
Right.
Are these journalists?
Yes.